I'll live the focused life because that's the best life there is. Winifred Gallagher. Hey guys, John Whitford here from Pursuit of Lean, and I want to give you my take on Cal Newport's new book, Deep Work. Now, I know I'm a little bit late to the party, but I recently completed his book, and I have to say, I really loved it. So, the first thing that, before we dive into the actionable tips he gives you, you have to understand what is deep work and why is it so important. So deep work essentially is the focused attention requiring work which really dives into our creativity and is the type of work you can't sit down in 5 minutes and knock out some deep work. It requires focused time, hours and hours on end, and it is really that moves the needle in whatever your knowledge work area is. Now, Cal is a professor, but it also applies for individual contributors in a company, people who deal with data, people who are computer programmers, or people who are writers, authors, anybody who really needs to sit down and work through a project. Now, this is juxtaposed to shallow work, which is the exact opposite. This is your email, your meeting minute preparations, your stop and chats and check-ins with your boss and with your team. Not that these are necessarily evil things or bad things, but they aren't what moves the business forward. It's not, if you're a talented person, if you really have a lot to bring the business, this is not where you want to be spending your time. So I took away 5 very actionable tips that help us do just that. And the first one is to know the style of deep work that fits for you. So the first version is monastic. Now, this is if you're a monk. You want to shy yourself away from the world for 6 months on end, and you want to go and study and create and stick in deep work. Now, as a person with a full-time job and as a dad and with many demands on my time, that doesn't work for me. The next one is bimodal. Now, this is kind of like a monastic light. So you have a life and you have your work and your day job, but then you might take retreats every 2 weeks or 3 weeks to go and complete whatever it is you're focused on. Again, not really working for me. What I really latched on to was the rhythmic method of deep work. And this is where you have a set time, whether it be every day or every week, where you really dive in and you have it on your calendar. This is guarded time. And during this time, you're focused in on your deep work. And personally for me, the first thing in the morning is when I'm freshest. It's before I've given the rest of my energy to work. And this is when I really go and have at least 60 minutes where I can bang out either a blog post, a video, or just some thought process towards a future project that I'm working on. The last one is journalistic, which is great if anybody can make it happen, but it's essentially whenever you have time, do it. The next thing I took away from deep work is the act of productive meditation. And I took this away even though it's a little challenging for me. And essentially what productive meditation is when you're walking the dog or you're commuting on your way to work. What people oftentimes try to do is they fill their head with music. They are, chatting with their friends. They're doing very shallow work because they're thinking they're being efficient because they're batching in multiple activities at one time when they wouldn't be doing anything otherwise. And Cal has a different take on this. He will take a single problem, one of the things that's challenging him and preventing him from moving forward in his project, and he will meditate on that problem during the time when he's jogging or doing whatever he's doing. And so I started to try this where I took my morning commute, a time when I would listen to audiobooks or get caught up on some podcasts, and I thought through a problem that I never found time to think about when I was engaged at work. And I have to tell you, I thought my 30-minute commute was a curse, and I'm starting to think now through productive meditation that might just be a blessing. So if any of you have a time built in, whether it's walking the dogs, walking the kids, or a long commute, try this at your own leisure, set that time aside and solve that problem. The next takeaway was tool selection. And Cal Newport has a very strong stance on this. And a tool could be Facebook, it could be email, or it could be an actual tool. And what all of us want to do is take what he calls the any benefit approach. And essentially that means that if you can find any possible reason why you should use that tool, use that tool. And Cal takes the other way. He talks about the craftsmanship approach, which is you have to take into account what is the key measure of success in your business and your passion, whatever it is you're trying to do. And you have to ask yourself, do the benefits of this tool outweigh the costs of using that tool for this application? And for a lot of us knowledge workers or people trying to start something on the side, our time is one of our greatest assets. And oftentimes when we add more tools, add another social media presence, add another project at work, you have to ask yourself, is this worth my time, worth my effort, and is my talent best served in this application? The next tip was great. And he talks about making your deep work hours trackable and visible. And he does it very simply. I've got my journal here where I track down all my notes throughout the day. And what he recommends is set up your calendar every day. As much time as you spend in that deep focused thought process, mark that down. It could be as simple as a tally mark on a paper calendar, but make the time you spend in deep focused work visible. That way, you know if you're improving or not improving the amount of time you're able to concentrate. And the last tip I loved was his approach to process-centric email replies. Now, what this basically means in a nutshell is if you ever get stuck in those infinite back and forth between you and a colleague in email, trying to figure out the next steps on a project or when we're going to get together for coffee, Cal takes an interesting approach. He does something that seems like it would slow you down, where essentially he will work 8, 9, 10 steps forward in the process. He'll think through getting coffee as an example, and he'll look through all the steps that need to happen between that. And in a single email reply, he will set up your next actions. He will give you contingencies where he'll basically say, if you're good with this time, I've listed out 3 times on 3 different days. And if any of these times work for you, please reply back with that time, and I'll take that as a confirmation and it'll be set. Otherwise, reply back with what you need. But he works through multiple scenarios to think it through and not waste anybody's time so that you can get more done with less back and forth email communication. So there's a ton more to take from this book. I'll have links below in the description for you to pick it up. Personally, I'm an audiobook guy. I recommend it on audiobook. It was a great listen, but it's also a great read. So with that said, again, appreciate it, guys. Spend more time in the deep waters, get out of the shallows, and live the focused life because it's the best life there is. Till next time, see ya.